What is labor law? And how do you talk about work and rights in legal English? In this beginner legal English class, you will learn key terms like contract, employer, and salary. You will also practice using the present simple to describe basic labor rights and workplace responsibilities. Perfect for anyone starting to explore employment law in English. We know learning legal English as a beginner can be very difficult. That's why we built a step by step course in school. Join our school community to build your legal English skills with lessons, live webinars, and a forum so you can finally speak legal English with confidence. Here is what you will learn in this class. First, you will learn important vocabulary for labor law, words like employee, employer, contract, and benefits. These are basic legal terms used all over the world. Then, you will practice describing what people can and must do at work, like following schedules, receiving pay, and understanding contracts. And finally, we will work with the present simple tense. This grammar helps you talk about what happens every day at work, like job duties or company rules. By the end of this lesson, you'll feel more confident talking about work, contracts, and labor law in clear, simple English. Let's begin with some simple questions about labor law. First, what is a work contract? It is a legal agreement. It says what the job is, how much money the worker makes, and the rules of work. What should an employer give an employee? Things like a safe workplace, fair pay, and rest breaks. These are labor rights. And what do workers do every day? Well, that depends. They might serve customers, use computers, drive trucks, or work in a factory. These questions will help you connect your own experience to the new vocabulary and grammar you will learn today. Let's begin with the word contract. A contract is a legal agreement between a worker and an employer. For example, my contract says I work 40 hours a week. That means the law protects this promise. Now, imagine this. You start a new job at a law office. On your first day, your boss gives you a document. It says how many hours you will work, how much money you will earn, and what your duties or obligations are. You both sign it. That document, that is your contract. It is not just a piece of paper, it's your legal protection. If there is ever a problem, the contract explains what is fair. That is why contracts are so important in labor law. Next is the word employer. An employer is the person or company that gives someone a job. For example, the employer gives the workers a schedule and their salary. That means the employer is responsible for organizing the work and paying the workers money. Let me give you a picture. Imagine a bakery. The owner of the bakery hires 5 workers. She tells them when to come to work, what to do, and how much they will be paid. She is the employer. Whether it's a small bakery, a big law firm, or a government office, the employer has power, but also responsibility. And labor law helps make sure employers treat workers fairly. Now, let's talk about the word employee. An employee is the person who works for an employer. If you have a job and you get paid, you are an employee. For example, employees must arrive on time and follow the rules. That's because employees agree to do the work in the contract. Think of Anna, a legal secretary. She comes to the law office every weekday, Monday to Friday. She answers calls, prepares documents, and helps the lawyers. She gets a salary every 2 weeks. Anna is an employee. She has a contract, a schedule, and legal rights. Labor law protects employees like Anna. It says they must be paid, get breaks, and work in a safe place. And it also says employees must follow the rules in their contract. Next is the word salary. A salary is the money a worker receives for doing their job. It is usually written in the work contract. For example, my salary is paid every month. That means you get paid once a month, not every day or every week. Let's imagine Carlos. He works at a law firm. He answers emails, files documents, and supports the lawyers. At the end of every month, he receives $800. That money is his salary. Some people get their salary every week. Others get it every 2 weeks. Labor law often says there must be a minimum salary, a basic amount that an employer must pay. Now, let's look at benefits. These are the extra things a worker gets besides their salary. For example, the job has good benefits like paid holidays. So even when you are not working, for example, you are on vacation, you still get paid. Here's a story. Rosa works for the government. Her salary is $900 a month, but her job also gives her paid holidays, medical insurance, and a year end bonus. These extras are her benefits. In many countries, labor law says that workers must get certain benefits, like paid sick leave, vacation time, and sometimes Social Security. Benefits make a big difference in a worker's life. It's not just about the salary, it's about protection and support too. The next word is hours, the time you work each day or week. It includes when you start and when you finish. For example, I work 8 hours a day from 9 to 5. That's a common office schedule in many countries. Let's talk about David. He is a legal assistant. His contract says he works 40 hours a week. That means 8 hours a day, Monday to Friday. He starts at 9 a.m. and finishes at 5 p.m. with 1 hour for lunch. These are his work hours. Labor laws often say there is a limit, usually 8 hours a day or 48 hours a week. If you work more than that, it's called overtime. A break is a short rest during the workday. It helps you relax, eat, or drink coffee. For example, we get a 15-minute break in the morning. Picture this. Sophia works at a courthouse. Her day is busy, answering phones, talking to clients, preparing forms. At 10:30, she stops for 15 minutes. She drinks tea, checks her phone, and sits down. That is her break. Breaks are important for health and safety. And labor laws often say when and how many breaks workers must get. In Costa Rica, for example, if you work a full day, you usually get a lunch break and one or two short rest breaks. Let's talk about overtime. This is the extra time you work after your regular schedule. For example, we get more money for overtime work. Let's say your contract is for 8 hours a day, but one day your boss asks you to stay until 7 p.m. That's 2 hours of overtime. In labor law, working more than your regular hours usually means extra pay. So, if you stay late, the law often says the employer must pay you more, sometimes 1.5 times or even 2 times your normal rate. Overtime protects workers. It's okay to work more sometimes, but only if it's fair and paid correctly. The word resign means to choose to leave your job. It's your decision, not your employer's. For example, I resigned from my job last month. Let's imagine Mariana. She worked at a legal office, but she got a better offer somewhere else. She told her employer, I am going to resign. She gave 2 weeks' notice, finished her work, and left the job politely. Resigning is a part of labor law. In many places, you must give notice, usually 1 or 2 weeks before you leave. It's part of being professional. Now, let's talk about the word fired. This is when the employer tells you to leave the job. It's not your choice, it's their choice. For example, he was fired for being late too many times. Think of Luis. He was late many times. He did not follow the office rules, and he did not improve. After some warnings, the boss fired him. In labor law, getting fired can be serious. Some workers may receive severance pay, money when the job ends. And in many countries, employers must have a good reason and follow legal steps. Let's practice some sentences with questions to help you find the right word. I will read each question and you think about the answer before I tell you. Who pays you money every month for your work? That's the employer, the person or company that pays you. If you work for a company, you are the, yes, you are the employee, the worker. What do you call the legal paper that says how many hours you work? That's your contract, the written agreement. Who is your boss or the company that gives you a job? That's your employer. What extra things like paid holidays or health insurance do you get? These are your benefits, extra support from your job. Now, let's do a true or false activity. Listen to each sentence, then decide if it's true or false. Overtime means working fewer hours than normal. No, that's false. Overtime means working more hours than normal. Employees must follow the rules at work. Yes, that's true. Following rules is part of the job. A break is a short time to rest during the workday. True, breaks help workers stay healthy and focused, and it's their right. You get paid more money when you resign. False. When you resign, you choose to leave. It usually does not come with extra pay. A fired employee leaves the job because the employer wants them to. That is true. Being fired means the employer ends the contract. Great work! You are getting stronger with labor law vocabulary. Now, let's talk about the present simple tense. We use this tense to describe actions that happen regularly, facts, or things that are generally true. For example, I work in a law office. That means it's my regular job or routine. She signs contracts. This tells us what someone regularly does at work. Because we are learning about labor law, many sentences talk about jobs, contracts, and work routines. Present simple helps us say those clearly and simply. Here is how to make present simple sentences with I, you, we, and they. We use the base form of the verb, no S at the end. For example, I work on contracts. This means it is what I do regularly. You follow labor laws. You do this as part of your job. We prepare meetings. That's something we do often. They explain benefits. They tell people about extra help at work. This is the basic way to talk about regular actions. When we use he, she, or it as the subject, we add s or es to the verb. For example, he signs the contract. This means it is what he does regularly. She explains the benefits. She talks about the extra help workers get. It finishes at 5 p.m. This could be the office or meeting that ends at that time. And remember, verbs ending in ch, sh, x, o, or ss get es instead of just s. For example, watch becomes watches, finish becomes finishes. This small change is very important to speak and write correctly. Let's start with some idioms, and we'll start with on the same page. This phrase means that people agree or understand something the same way. In a labor law context, it's important for employers and employees to be on the same page about contracts and job expectations. For example, before the meeting, we made sure we were on the same page about the contract terms. Being on the same page helps avoid confusion or problems later. Now, a legal phrase at will employment. This means either side, the employer or employee, can end the job whenever they want without giving a reason. This is common in some countries like United States, but not everywhere. For example, in many states in the United States, employees work under at-will employment contracts. Understanding this is important when talking about job security and rights. Let's look at collective bargaining. This is when employees negotiate together with their employer, often through a union, to get better pay or conditions. It's a key part of labor law because it helps balance power between workers and employers. For example, the union uses collective bargaining to improve worker salaries and conditions. This process can lead to important changes in the workplace. Here's an idiom: call the shots. This means to be the person who makes important decisions. In the workplace, the manager or employer usually calls the shots about tasks and schedules. For example, the manager calls the shots in the office and decides the work schedule. This phrase helps us talk about who is in control. Here's an idiom: cut corners. This means to do something faster or cheaper, but usually not as well or by ignoring rules. In labor law, cutting corners can mean ignoring safety rules or not following contract terms. For example, the company cannot cut corners when it comes to employee safety. It reminds us that shortcuts can cause problems. Get the ball rolling. This means to start something important, like a meeting or project. In the workplace, it is used when people begin talks, plans, or work. For example, we need to get the ball rolling on the new contract negotiations. It's a friendly way to talk about starting action. Let me tell you a story about Maria's first day at a law office to bring together everything we learned today. Maria arrives excited to start her new job. First, she signs her employee contract. This document explains her salary, her work hours, and her duties clearly. It helps Maria know exactly what is expected. Next, her manager explains her job description, the list of tasks she will do every day. Maria listens carefully because she wants to understand her role well. Her manager, who calls the shots in the office, tells Maria which tasks to do first and how to follow the company's labor laws. This means Maria promises not to cut corners. She will do her work carefully and follow all the rules, especially for employee safety. The team also makes sure they are all on the same page about schedules and responsibilities, so there is no confusion or mistakes. Finally, Maria is ready to get the ball rolling on her new role. She feels confident and excited to start contributing to the team. This story shows how important contracts, clear job rules, following laws, and good communication are in a workplace, all essential parts of labor law. Before we finish, let's review what you learned today. First, you practice important vocabulary about labor law, including words like employment contract, job description, employer, salary, and duties. These help you talk clearly about jobs and work rights. You also worked on present simple verbs and learning when to add s or es for he, she, and it, and keeping the base verb without the s for I, you, we, and they. We talked about who calls the shots at work. It means who is in charge and makes decisions. You also learned other useful idioms like cut corners, get the ball rolling, and to be on the same page. Finally, we saw how clear contracts and good communication protect both workers and employers, making work safer and fair. Great job today. Keep practicing these words and phrases to build your legal English skills. We know that learning legal English is difficult. Please join our school group for easy lessons, live webinars, and a supportive forum, and start speaking legal English confidently. The link is in the description.